Imagine this. You're at an Ivy League caliber college, Sarah Lawrence. You are surrounded by some of the brightest kids of their generation.
Right.
And then a man sits down in the middle of them. A 50-year-old ex-con.
And he doesn't have a weapon in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
No gun, no knife.
No, he has a ledger.
A ledger. Full of fake debts, confessions he forced out of them, what he called psychological taxes.
And by the time the sun comes up, these students, they don't belong to their parents anymore. They don't even belong to the university.
They belong to him. They belong to Larry.
This is the architecture of a soul trap.
And it is absolutely terrifying because it's invisible. Today we're opening Dossier #28, the invisible guillotine.
Right.
We're doing a full forensic debrief on Larry Ray and the Sarah Lawrence cult.
Okay, so let's set our mission. We're not just here to retell the story. We've got the court documents, victim statements, the big New York Magazine piece, and Daniel Levin's memoir.
Right.
Our job is to analyze that transition. How does a person go from being this unconventional house guest on an air mattress
To a full-blown totalitarian cult leader? That's the question.
Yeah.
We have to break down the mechanics, the coercive control. How do you deconstruct these incredibly smart victims?
It's not just what happened, it's how did the trap actually work?
How do you dismantle someone's reality piece by piece without them even noticing?
All right, let's open the file. It's 2010, Sarah Lawrence College.
It's a small, elite, very liberal arts college, known for being extremely open-minded.
And into that bubble steps Larry Ray, fresh out of prison.
Lawrence Greco originally.
Yeah.
He claimed he had these connections to powerful people. Bernard Kerik, Giuliani.
A background in securities fraud, mob ties.
But to these kids, he was just Talia's dad.
Right, his daughter Talia is a sophomore there. She lives in this dorm, Slumwoods 9. It's chaotic, communal.
And she just asked her roommates, hey, my dad just got out of prison. He was framed. Can he crash here?
Now you and I, we hear that and we think.
Absolutely not. Red flags everywhere.
But they said yes, and this is the first point of infiltration. It's the whole frog in boiling water scenario.
Exactly. He didn't pick the door down. He just moved in, slept on an air mattress, but he filled a void.
How so?
Daniel Levin, one of the survivors, he describes Ray as rotund and having this pressured speech.
That term, pressured speech, it comes up a lot in the psych profiles. What does that actually mean in practice?
It means there is no silence. There's no air in the conversation for you to breathe or think. He just talks and talks and talks.
But it wasn't aggressive at first.
Not at all. It was steak dinners. It was stories about how he was a former Marine, a CIA operative who recovered Stinger missiles.
All of which was a complete lie.
A total fabrication. But it's the competence myth. He presents himself as this victim of a huge conspiracy, but also as a worldly protector. He cooked for them, listened to their problems. He basically became the alpha in a house of kids who were still trying to figure out who they were.
And I think that's a key detail. These are sophomores. They're smart, sure, but they're so developmentally vulnerable at that age.
They're looking for a mentor, and he provided this deeply corrupted version of one.
Which brings us to the first real trap, the coffee meeting. This is it's a chilling example of the predator-prey dynamic.
Because it starts so innocently. Daniel Levin agrees to get a coffee with him.
He's probably thinking, 45 minutes, listen to his roommate's dad's stories, be polite.
But for Larry, it was never just coffee. It was an interrogation. He showed up to harvest intelligence.
They were in that Starbucks for hours. The sun went down.
And in that time, Ray got Daniel to open up about everything. His insecurities, his family's mental health history, his sexuality, his doubts about his girlfriend.
He was just mapping out all the buttons, all the vulnerabilities he was going to exploit later.
It's a classic extraction. You fake empathy, you get the target to just unload everything. He even convinced Daniel to break up with his girlfriend right there and then.
He framed it as liberating him.
But it was isolation. He was cutting the cord to Daniel's biggest external support system.
And here's the detail that just makes the hair on my neck stand up when they finally leave that Starbucks.
After hours of this psychological mining.
They walk around the corner, and a stretch limousine is just waiting for them.
Idling.
A limo.
Think about the calculation in that. While Ray was working on Daniel for hours, the rest of the group, Talia, Isabella Pollock, the others, they were just sitting in that limo, waiting.
This wasn't spontaneous. This was a planned operation.
It was a power play. Look, these people wait for me for hours. I control them, and now you're one of us. That was the moment the cell door clicked shut, even if Daniel couldn't hear it.
Okay, so let's shift to phase 2. Decoding the event. He has them in the trap. Now he has to keep them there.
And he doesn't use chains. Not at first. He uses reality distortion.
We have to talk about the Grape Experiment.
It's a masterclass in what we call sensory erosion.
I read this in the court transcripts, and it sounds so absurd. He'd take a grape, slice it vertically, take another, slice it horizontally.
And he'd demand that they taste the difference.
And of course, they'd say, Larry, it's a grape. It tastes like a grape.
And that's when the rage would begin. He would just berate them. For hours, calling them unsophisticated, stupid, until they were so exhausted.
That they'd finally break and say, oh, you're right, yes, the vertical one is sweeter.
Why a grape, though? It seems so random.
Because it's undeniable. Your own sense of taste is a biological fact. If I can make you deny your own senses just to make the yelling stop, then I've unmoored you from reality.
Exactly. If you can't trust your own tongue, the only person you have left to trust is Larry.
And he'd pair this with the interrogation loop. We're not talking about a simple lecture. These were 10, sometimes 20-hour struggle sessions.
Sleep deprivation was the key. He'd play the same 100 songs on a loop all night while grilling them about crimes they never committed.
And the physical space changed. They moved from the dorm to an apartment on the Upper East Side, and he turned it into a Panopticon.
He took the handles off the bathroom doors.
Just removed them.
Gone. Think about what that does to you psychologically. There is no privacy. You are always exposed.
And the cameras everywhere.
So you start to police yourself. You feel like you're being watched even when no one's in the room. You stop even thinking rebellious thoughts.
There's that one detail from Daniel Levin about the videos that came out at trial.
Yeah, this part it's hard to process.
The video shows Daniel being tortured with a pair of pliers. It is graphic. It is horrific.
But he has no memory of it happening.
None.
That's the depth of the dissociation. His brain just checked out to survive the trauma. Ray had so effectively rewritten his reality that his mind literally deleted the event.
And this ties into the false memory injection, which created the ledger.
Correct. He convinced these brilliant students they had repressed memories of poisoning him, of damaging his property, of abusing him.
And made them write confessions.
Made them find confessions, made them sign IOUs. Their own reality was replaced by a digital spreadsheet of debt. You broke a lamp, that's $5,000. You poisoned my food, that's $20,000.
So they were trapped psychologically, but also, in their minds, legally and financially.
It's the ultimate gaslight. I'm not your captor. You're just here working off the debt you owe me for all the terrible things you did.
Which brings us to phase 3, the behavioral profile, the predator's alchemy. The big question is always, why did they stay?
That's the core of this dossier.
Yeah.
You have to understand traumatic bonding and ego stripping. Ray didn't just break them down. He targeted their sense of moral superiority.
What do you mean by that specifically?
These were good kids. Idealistic. They wanted to do the right thing. He convinced them that deep down they were secretly awful people poisoners, liars, destroyers.
He makes them into criminals so he can be their savior.
It's a double gaslight. You are fundamentally broken, and I am the only person who can fix you.
So if they leave, they're not escaping. They're just confirming that they're a bad person running away from their responsibilities.
Exactly. And he maintained control with a hierarchy. There was always a scapegoat.
The person at the very bottom of the pyramid?
Always. Levin talked about this. One person would be singled out for torture, for humiliation, for starvation. And this forces the others to participate in the abuse just to make sure it isn't them.
It destroys any sense of solidarity.
It's pure survival. You'll kick the person below you just to stay on your rung of the ladder.
We also have to touch on the sexual coercion. This wasn't just assault, it was framed as education.
The sex education ruse. He told Daniel and Isabella Pollock that he needed to instruct them to fix their psychosexual issues. It was a mask for his own predation.
And Daniel said something really insightful. He said it wasn't about pleasure for Ray.
No, it was about complicity.
Yeah.
If I can force you to participate in your own degradation or the degradation of others, you become compromised. Shame is a very powerful glue.
Let's zoom out for a moment. The systemic blind spot.
Yeah.
How does a 50-year-old man live in a college dorm for a year?
It's a complete failure of institutional vigilance. On paper, they were adults, so the college was hands-off. But they were kids. The administration just saw an unconventional house guest.
They didn't see the warden.
No. And he wasn't hiding. He was living there with 8 sophomores. Predators thrive in that gray area between unconventional and illegal.
Then he moved them, first the apartment, then to North Carolina.
The Pinehurst property. That's when it shifted from psychological control to outright forced labor.
He had them digging ditches in the middle of the night.
Locking the refrigerator.
God.
He moved them to a place with no friends, no family, no support system. It was a labor camp.
And this brings us to the final stage, Section 4, the economics of the soul.
He extracted over $1 million from them and their families. But what he did to Claudia Drury, that's the ultimate violation.
This is where it goes from a cult to human trafficking.
It's the complete commodification of a person. He coerced Claudia into prostitution to pay off these fabricated debts for poisoning him.
And he collected $2.5 million from her work.
And the brutality he used to enforce it was just unimaginable. If she resisted, if he thought she was talking too much to a client.
That's when the plastic bag incident happened.
He tied her to a chair and put a plastic bag over her head until she nearly suffocated. This is pure torture. He turned a Sarah Lawrence student into a revenue stream for his sadism.
And yet, when he finally goes to trial, his defense is just baffling.
It's a textbook Darvio response. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
He actually claimed he was the victim.
His lawyers argued he was a victim of childhood abuse, claimed he had health problems. Even at his sentencing, Ray himself stood up and said he was the one being tortured by the justice system.
He was trying to gaslight the entire courtroom.
He was. But the judge, Louis Lamon, he saw right through it. His final quote is the perfect summary for this entire dossier.
It was sadism, pure and simple.
And the sentence reflected that.
Yeah.
60 years. A life sentence, effectively.
So we're at the conclusion. Phase 4, the haunting.
Larry Ray is in prison. The ledger is closed. But the cost is permanent.
Daniel Levin talks about having lost time. Whole chunks of his memory are just gone.
Because for the victims, the interrogation never really ends. They're free, physically. But that conditioning, the voice in your head that questions your own reality, that takes a lifetime to deprogram.
They're free, but they still look for the cameras. They still hear his voice in the silence.
Dossier 28 isn't just a record of a crime, it's a warning. We all think our minds are a fortress.
But he proved that your mind is the most vulnerable fortress you own.
Keep the gate locked.
Sleep with the lights on.
And that's where we have to leave this debrief. As analysts, our advice is simple. Remain vigilant.
Stay curious, but
Trust your own senses. If the grape tastes like a grape, it's a grape. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
we'll see you on the next dive.